Hey, this is Teja Gerken with Peghead Nation, and I'm here with Taylor's brand new Gold Label 814E. This is a completely new guitar for Taylor, maybe the most radically different model that Taylor has ever introduced. And perhaps you saw my little teaser clip about this guitar, or you saw the video that we recently shot with Andy Powers at the NAMM show talking about this guitar. I'm really excited to have one here in the studio to show it to you, to play it a little bit, and to listen to its new tonality. Let's dive in. So Taylor calls this guitar the Gold Label 814E. My guess is it's going to be the first of a line of Gold Label line guitars. Right now, the series is introduced with this new body. Even though it's called an 814, it's actually a slightly larger body. They're calling it the Super Auditorium. It measures about 16.25 inches at the lower bout. A standard Taylor Grand Auditorium is just a little under 16 inches. There are so many internal construction things that differentiate this guitar from any 814 ever made that you really have to think of it as a different guitar. Really at the root of this new Gold Label series is the fact that Andy Powers was trying to capture a new kind of tonality for Taylor guitar. Taylor has never been a company that has tried to emulate a kind of vintage tonality or vintage sound or in any way kind of capture what classic American flat top guitars have offered. And even though this guitar is built completely different from any vintage instrument you've ever seen or played, it does capture a little bit of that vibe, that tonality that is so different from the kind of modern sound, the really clear, defined hi-fi-like sound that Taylor has been known for, and which in recent years, ever since the introduction of the V-class bracing, has really been amplified to be a totally unique Taylor-like voice that works wonderfully for a lot of musical applications. But it's undeniable that there's something beautiful about a more vintage, classic-like sound, and I think Andy has succeeded in introducing that with these guitars. I'm going to come back to playing the guitar in just a moment, and I also brought along a brand new Builder's Edition Grand Auditorium Taylor here to kind of go back and forth and compare this new tonality with the much more sort of defined classic Taylor tone that the other guitar has. So stay tuned for that. But I do want to talk about this guitar in particular a little bit first. I already mentioned the Super Auditorium body, currently only available in a non-cutaway configuration. Similar to Taylor's standard Grand Auditorium body, but slightly larger in the lower bout, and the curves, the proportions are just changed ever so slightly. You may have recognized immediately that the guitar introduces a new peghead shape. This is really the first time Taylor has ever done a new shape here, especially in the upper part of the peghead. There have been slightly different sizes of the Taylor peghead, but this is really Andy Powers' signature on this guitar. Speaking of signature, it does say Taylor on the top, but it's a new lettering here for the logo. The guitar also has a new pickguard shape. That's a modified shape of the traditional Taylor pickguard. It's a two-layer pickguard. It's engraved down here. You have a little bit of a design in there that shows the white coming through of the inner layer of this. The guitar that I have here uses Honduran rosewood back and sides. There's also a version of this available with koa back and sides. This is gorgeous wood. It's really lovely. Great sapwood here on the edge of the body. It's a four-piece back. You have to look very close to see the seams. That's something that Taylor has been pioneering a bit more with modern guitar making, to use four-piece backs and in some cases tops, even though this one is a two-piece top. It's a torrefied Sitka spruce top. Really gorgeous, beautiful cross grain in here, depending on how you look at it. Almost three-dimensional grain on this. And of course, it's slightly darkened from the torrefaction roasting process on this. Interestingly, Andy chose to do something on this guitar that is pretty much standard procedure with classical guitars, but you don't see it often with steel string guitars, and that is that he used different kinds of wood for the fingerboard and the bridge. The fingerboard is ebony, and it features Taylor's continental inlays in mother of pearl. The bridge of the guitar is made from Honduran rosewood, just like the back and sides, and as I mentioned, this is something that's pretty much standard on classical guitars. I think with steel string guitars, we're so used to having the same look of the wood for the fingerboard and bridge that it's kind of a detail that is somewhat overlooked, and yet it gives the maker so many more options in matching the density of the wood or using a different weight of wood for the bridge, that I think it's a cool thing that Andy is exploring this on these new gold label instruments. The guitar is ivoroid binding, and also ivoroid binding inside the rosette. No binding on the neck. Abalone rosette, kind of a thin strip in here, surrounded by 2 layers of wooden inlay, and there's also wooden purfling around the guitar. Bone bridge pins. And we have Goto 510 high ratio tuners on the guitar. So overall, you can tell that the look of the guitar just has a little bit more of a old vintage guitar look to it, especially when we're looking at this 2-layer pickguard and some of the appointments. But of course, it does still say Taylor, but just in a new way. The most radical thing about the guitar is a completely new neck design that is no longer Taylor's NT neck. It's still a bolt-on design. Taylor calls this a long tenon design, which means there's a longer tenon inside the neck than on a standard NT neck. But what's even more important is there's an adjustment screw inside by the neck block. You can reach it from inside the sound hole, and it allows simple adjustment of the neck angle. So you can effectively reset the neck or adjust the neck angle to the action that you like with a simple twist of a tool that you can put in there and adjust the adjustment screw in there. So that is something that a few very modern guitar makers have experimented with. There have also been historical examples of this kind of a thing. It is completely new for Taylor. Instead of the design that uses shims on the NT neck, which is also revolutionary and highly adjustable, this is an even simpler design, and it still retains a lot of wood-to-wood connection and also affects the tonality of the guitar. One of the biggest departures between this and other recent Taylors with V-Class bracing is that this guitar has a highly modified version of Andy Power's V-Class bracing. Taylor calls this the fanned V-Class bracing, and essentially, whereas a typical normal V-Class bracing goes all the way down to the tail block, the V part of the bracing on this kind of stops here around the bridge plate, and there are 6 fans that go out from there on the bottom. So it's a little bit like a traditional Taurus style classical fan bracing. Not exactly like it, of course, but essentially you have a fan pattern out here, and it's also quite lightly braced, lighter than V-Class bracings that I've seen, and also I believe lighter than most Taylor X braces that I've seen. So it results in a very responsive top. To me, it sounds a little bit more X-braced like than a typical Taylor V-Class, but really it is a completely new category and sort of expands on the V-Class concept. Andy Powers wanted to keep these guitars as clean and sort of acoustic as possible, so instead of the standard Taylor ES pickup system that's used in most Taylor guitars, which would have had controls in the upper bow tier and a battery compartment in the back, Taylor chose to use a simple LR Baggs pickup system. It's the Element system with an under saddle pickup and a simple control unit here in the sound hole. So because this guitar has such a new tonality for Taylor, I do think it's interesting to compare it with a standard V-Class brace Grand Auditorium, and I'm going to do just that. So we'll go back and forth. I'll do a little strumming and a little bit of fingerstyle playing on both guitars. Let's start out with this Goat Label 814E. And let's see what it sounds like if I'm playing it fingerstyle. So I think it's a really fun comparison to hear the guitars back to back. I find that this guitar has a more robust bottom end, very different overtone structure, perhaps a little more complexity in the overtones, and a little different mid-range sound, very sort of elastic and dynamic sounding, a bit more like what you would expect from kind of a classic American flat-top guitar, but also retaining the balance and of course the playability that Taylor is known for. Whereas the V-Class highly modern Grand Auditorium Builder's Edition has that almost hi-fi like sound with super controlled basses and lower mid-range, great highs, a little brighter sounding perhaps. So it really would depend on the musical situation that you would use the guitars, and of course also your personal preference. They're both great sounds, but very different to my ear at least. So that is the new Taylor Goat Label 814E. I think it's a very exciting new guitar. It's very cool to see Andy Powers experimenting with so many new elements in the construction of the guitar and really succeeding in using them to create a new voice for Taylor. And it really is a sound that brings a solid dose of more kind of a vintage tonality to the Taylor platform, which is something that Taylor has never really done, and but combines it with the famous Taylor playability and also the balance and clarity that Taylor's always been known for. So it's really kind of more of everything. You still get a lot of the things that people have loved about Taylor guitars, but with a completely new character. And I have a feeling it'll bring some folks who have traditionally preferred more of a vintage sound to checking out Taylor's and really liking what they sound like. If you've seen my videos, you know that the main thing I personally do is play fingerstyle and alternate tunings, and I'm going to go out with the guitar tuned to open C, C, G, C, G, C, D. I play a little bit of Shebeg Shemor, the traditional Irish piece, and show you the really big tonality that I think the guitar offers played like that. Again, my name is Teja Gerken with Peghead Nation. If you're seeing this on YouTube, I'd encourage you to pop on over to pegheadnation.com, not just for our many gear demos, but also our courses, not just for guitar, but many other stringed and fretted instruments, and we'd love to welcome you there. Here's a little bit of Shebeg Shemor played on this Taylor Goat Label 814E.